Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I really just had a ton of stuff that I really wanted to talk about. I was literally in the shower and I just had like so many ideas that were just kind of, God was just really speaking to me, like so many different things. And I was watching a bunch of clips from from Bryce Crawford's podcast, and I was just like, man, there is this like I just need to talk about like all this stuff like right now because it's just like it was like some just crazy stuff that was really relating to me, and it was just like really hitting me hard. And I ended up writing some stuff down about it, and I was like, man, that's like crazy that I was actually doing that, and now I'm here. Anyways, I'm just gonna get right into it. Um, the last like 3 months have been kind of rough for me. If you know me personally, then you know why. If you don't, I went through a breakup, kind of rough, but we thugging it out. But in all seriousness, yeah, it was pretty rough. I'm not gonna lie, it still kind of hurts, but I'm definitely a lot better than I was 1 week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, a month ago, etc. Um, Especially today. Today's probably been the best day I've had in a while since everything happened. But all that to say is just like I feel like this whole time has really been a test from God with me, with my faith, with my honestly just with my faith and my like just trust with both him and my friends and my family and just everything that's going on. Because I mean, like right at the beginning when it happened, started a podcast, started doing all this stuff. I was doing more social media stuff. I was talking about God more openly than I've ever done before. I was just doing like I was like putting myself out there in so many different directions. I was trying to do this while I was trying to do that, and I was in school and I'm still in school, and it's like trying to do all these things. And at that same time, I was also like, all right, cool. I'm going to try and make everything about God, and I'm going to try and push myself to basically try to be perfect, which everybody knows you can't be perfect because only Jesus was perfect. But my whole point in that was I was so focused on trying to get rid of all my sins, right my wrongs, and honestly just, I was so focused on trying to fight back against Satan and try not to let him win, and I was trying so hard not to let him take control over me, that in reality he had the most control over me in that moment because I was hyper fixating so much on him that I wasn't even looking at God. I was looking so much forward and looking at him so much that all I had to do was turn around and God was right there. But I just kept looking at him and just kept going in his direction because I thought that if I break it at its start, then it's going to be fine. But what I kept doing is I kept going back to that same sin. I kept falling back. I kept falling and falling and falling, not realizing that all I was doing was I was like just so fixated on trying to win the battle against Satan that I wasn't even looking behind me to see that I had all this help to help me fight when I was trying to do it alone. And I wasn't even looking at God or anybody else that was trying to help me. I was just so focused on the negativity that I wasn't looking at the positivity that was all around me. And I've said it before. It's gratitude. Honestly, it's like, I mean, I've been to Honduras and I've seen some really hard to swallow things just in terms of the living situation there on people that are indeed living in a third world country. It's just like looking at where they're living at. It's like, but that they're so happy, and then meanwhile I'm here depressed and sad because a girl broke up with me. But it's like at the end of the day, it's me. If I was saying this to me about a week ago, I'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever. But fill in the blank. Now I'm just kind of at that point where it's like, okay, great, that happened, but it was an amazing learning experience. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about the person. I learned a lot about just who I was and how to not necessarily love somebody else who I might meet later down the road better, but how to listen more and how to actually not try to, I mean, I guess as a guy, not try to mansplain everything or not try to fix everything. Because usually at most times as guys, we like to fix things. We don't like to, we don't like to find ways around it. We like to hit it at its root, you know? Like if your missus has got a problem, you're like, all right, what can I do? I'm gonna fix it right now. Where usually with women, they kind of like to process it more and actually go through it. I don't know if I'm saying that right, so don't attack me because I don't know. I'm not a woman. But that's at least how I see it, because as guys, we like to get the problem solved immediately and fix it as like the most we can. Even if it's something we don't know how to fix, we're going to try and fix it the best we can. All that to say is I learned a lot about that relationship, and I learned a lot about myself. So I'm grateful, truly, truly grateful for the time that I got with that girl, honestly. And it's really been eye-opening, because while I am still walking through my faith, I definitely was very far from God in that relationship. And I'm not putting blame on anybody but myself, because that was all what I was doing, and it was not something that they were doing. It was all me. It was all my choices, and I was rather putting more energy into them than I was either myself or God. All that to say, no hard feelings for the relationship is all I want to say. But I was so fixated on, why did she do this? Why did she do that? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? Rather than looking at it as wow, I'm glad that I did that in that moment. I'm glad she did that in that moment. I'm glad that I was able to help her. I'm glad she was able to help me in that moment, kind of a thing. I was looking at it negatively and not looking at the positives, the memories, and all that stuff. Because at the end of the day, it's like, if she wasn't the one for me, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I know there's somebody out there who is for me, that God is currently working on healing and preparing for me to meet at some point in my life, God willing, obviously. But at the end of the day, the learning experience was something I needed, because it taught me about who I was and how I kind of operated under these different situations. Because while I have been in other relationships, that was my my first serious relationship. Yeah, I was just focusing on the negative stuff, and what I've been learning about myself recently in this kind of time or the season of singleness, I guess is what we would call it, is that I got a lot of messed up stuff in my head that I'm still trying to work on. But it's like, it's just those things that every person deals with and struggles with. Like, I still struggle with lust. It's a big thing, especially as a guy in 2024. It's trying to move past from over-sexualizing women, over-sexualizing everything just in our day-to-day life, because if we really look at it and we dissect it at its core, everything is so over-sexualized now. There's so much sexualized things in shows, movies, books, you name it. It's in literally everything. It's in everything, and it's so unavoidable that I don't know. I went on I guess I call it a fast of social media in like September-ish, and I did that for about a month or two, and I was off Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. The only thing I really had was YouTube, and I think that was it. Yeah, no, just YouTube, and then like Spotify. But I don't really count Spotify. And YouTube is just like, it's like, I don't know. I'm an iPad kid. I like watching videos when I eat food. And for me, it was more so not the whole reason why I did that wasn't to just get away from everything, but that was the reason. But the main reason was I wanted to start desexualizing my brain and start actually focusing on the now, rather than what are they doing, what is that person doing, what's going on in that person's life. Because what I was doing is I was scrolling and scrolling and scrolling on Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is, and especially on TikTok, because TikTok's algorithm is crazy, because it's like you watch one video and that's your entire feed. On Instagram, it takes a little bit to kind of get there, but TikTok is like immediately. It's like you watch one video and that's your entire feed for the rest of the time you're scrolling. And it really can dictate how your mood is from that point on. And I caught myself just spiraling and spiraling, scrolling and scrolling on things that were just like hurting my brain, or just like making me have these thoughts that were either over-sexualizing women or whatever it might have been. But all that to say is, like, I did that whole thing and I felt great afterwards. It felt a little lonely because I wasn't really messaging, or I wasn't really talking to people. Like with Snapchat, it's like you see people's faces every now and then. But I was mostly just texting the few people that actually saved my number and stuff. So it's like I didn't have too much social interaction. So it was like, it made me feel a little lonely in the beginning, but like afterwards it really gave me a peace, because I wasn't worried about what was going on in that person's life or that person's life, or worried about having to avoid these different videos so I wouldn't get these urges lustfully and all that. But yeah, it's just like, it's taught me a lot just about myself, really, is all I can say about that whole situation, as I kind of went on a rant that I don't even remember what I was talking about. But especially like during this Christmas, I realized that it wasn't affecting me as much as I thought it was, because I was expecting Christmas to be very difficult for me, just because it still was difficult, but not in the ways that I thought. It's mostly difficult in terms of it's another Christmas without my biological dad, who passed away last year, and it's another Christmas without some friends that I might have lost along the way. And it's just, obviously it's another Christmas that I'm not going to be spending time with that person that I thought I loved, or that I thought loved me, or I thought we were in a loving relationship, whatever. But instead it was more of a focus on God, and it was a focus on Jesus and the birth of Jesus. And I know a lot of people don't actually think he was born on Christmas, whatever. You think that, I think he was. So to each his their own, I don't really care. But I was finding myself just focusing on that, and I really feel like that gave me such a really good, just like inner peace, honestly, on Christmas. Obviously, it was hard for me still, because at the end of the day, I can only desensitize my brain so much to a point where it's still there, but it's not hurting me and it's not affecting me how I'm living my day and stuff. But it was definitely still hurting a little bit, and it was definitely still making me a little bit sad, but it's like I was able to move past it and actually enjoy Christmas, you know? And usually if it was in a time where I'm single, or just like not really in the best kind of spirit, or there's a lot of stuff going on, Christmas is usually very, very difficult. And it's difficult for a lot of people. I talked about it in a little short video I did on my Instagram and also on YouTube. But it can be hard for a lot of people, because they might be going into Christmas with people that they've lost along the way. And it can be very hard, and I truly, truly understand that. It was very difficult for me last Christmas, because that was the first Christmas I had where I wasn't able to talk with my dad because he had passed away. Um, and it was difficult, and it still is very difficult, because I mean it's now been more than a year since he's passed, and it's still not easy. But yeah, I feel like God has really just been placing a lot of things on my heart recently just to speak about, and I looking back at the videos that I posted on here, like the full length ones, like the talk one I talked about temptation, mental health, and prayer, and uh, feeling like a white sheep in a crowd of black sheep kind of video styles. Those videos I 100% meant, and everything I was saying was all things that I believed. However, they weren't things that I was actually practicing. I wasn't practicing what I was preaching, which is a big problem that I've had for a while, because it's like I'll say all these things, but I'm not actually doing them. And I want to get more into a style of videos where it's not me just talking about things, because that's kind of what I was doing. I was talking about prayer, and this is what prayer can look like, and they can also look like this. I don't want to do those styles of videos, because, right, I get they can be good, but at the same time, it might not be what some people need to hear that I know how, like, that I've experienced. Like, the things that I really want to talk about are things like this, where it's being vulnerable, and it's honestly expressing how I'm really feeling, and how Jesus has really been working in my life. Because I literally, if you told me about a month ago that I would still be living here, I probably wouldn't believe it, because a month ago I was so deep in depression that I just didn't know if I was ever going to get out. Truly, I couldn't see the end of the tunnel. In the middle of that kind of tunnel, though, there was a light at the end, and it was Jesus, and he was waiting on me. But I kept turning around every now and then, getting sidetracked, because I kept turning around seeing that darkness that was just Satan. And it was just Satan chasing me constantly. Because Satan and God are the same in terms of how they chase you. Not in the intentions, but how they chase you. Satan's going to chase you just as hard as God's going to chase you. Because Satan wants you to worship him and not worship God, because Satan wants you to not see the actual truth of God, and he doesn't want you to see the truth that Jesus is the Son of God, and that he really died on the cross, and he really was resurrected 3 days later. He doesn't want you to believe all that. He wants you to worship him, because he can give you all this stuff. And there was a story that I saw that Bryce talked about in his thing. Shout out Bryce. But it was basically the story of this guy who had a dream, and he was in a field, and there was a fence, and on one side was God and the other side was Satan. And Satan basically says to him, which side are you going to choose? Are you going to go over him, or are you going to come over to me and stay with me? Because if you stay with me, I can give you whatever you want. I can give you money, I can give you cars, fame, whatever you want. I'll give you it right now if you just worship me and you stay with me. And he's looking over at God, and he's looking over at Satan. He's just like, it's like, I want to be with God, but like some of that stuff sounds kind of cool. So I'm just going to sit on the fence, and I'm just going to get a little bit of God, a little bit of Satan. And then all of a sudden everything just goes black. And then Satan appears, and he's just like kind of laughing a little bit at him. And the guy's like, wait, what happened? I sat in the middle of the fence, so I would get a little bit of God and a little bit of you. And he's just like, yeah, but I own that fence. So you were sitting on what I had, because that fence was the barrier between Satan and God. Because God was on the other side, because that barrier wasn't his. Because for God, it's wide open for you to be there whenever you want. But for Satan, it's like, all right, but as soon as you walk over that barrier, you're mine, and you're not going back anywhere else. All that to say is, like, I want to be able to talk about like things that are affecting me and impacting me that other people can really relate to, but I can specify it in a way that it's not negative, that it's actually positive, and it can actually help people. Because a lot of what I used to do with social media was I would just express my feelings but not elaborate on them, and I would just be like, I'm feeling like this, period. And most of the times it was very negative and it wasn't positive at all. But what I really want to do and start doing is kind of that short form style videos, where I just do short videos. I'll do a long video every now and then, just like this. I'll kind of see how it works. But I really just want to start doing these kind of videos where I just speak whatever's on my mind, kind of like what I was doing in those other videos, but not specifying it to a certain topic, rather than it's just me talking. Because honestly, if this camera wasn't here, this would just be me talking to God, because this is how it is, how I talk to God anyways. I just talk to him. But I really feel like God's really been placing this all in my heart just to talk about. And honestly, for me, it's not even about getting followers, getting fame, getting money, whatever. It's like all that would be cool, but it's like I really and truly want to just do this because it's something that means a lot to me. It really does mean a lot to me to speak about the gospel, especially looking at the past in my life where I was at a place where I was really struggling. I was really trying to get out of the dirt, and I really couldn't see a light, and I really couldn't see a way out. But it was when my friends picked me up and they said, no, look right there. God's right there. He's waiting on you, and he's going to help you up. Like we talked about in my podcast in episode 6, the most recent podcast we just put out. It's when Patty was talking about a message that Caleb shared at our youth group, and it was basically like, if you're riding a bike and you fall down and you're like, that really hurt, and you're trying to like pick all the gravel out your knee, God's standing up there waiting on you to kind of ask him for help, because he's not going to force it on you. He's not going to force his love onto you, because that's not what he wants to do. Because if that's what he did, we wouldn't have to worry about lust or addictions or whatever it might be, because that's when free will comes into the picture. I talk about free will so much. That's when free will comes into the picture, because he's allowing you to choose either to call upon him or to do it on your own. But in that moment, once you actually say, God, I need your help, that's when he helps you get back on your feet. He helps you get back on the bike, and he helps you continue to go. But all that to say is, like, I was at such a low point in my life, and my friends picked me up, and they really were just like, it's like, dog, I don't know where you're searching, but all you got to do is look up, because he's right there waiting on you. And that's honestly my testimony, short story, is just really is like, I was at such a low point, didn't want to be here, and my friends were just like, it's like, honestly, just lay it at God's feet. And that's what I did. And I just prayed and prayed and prayed, and then finally God was like, all right, I'm gonna help you up. And that's when he got me back up on my feet, really. And yeah, but truly, I really just want to make this video just because there's just like, I've got so much stuff that I want to talk about, but it's like I can't always get it out all on the podcast, because it kind of gets like thrown in there every now and then, or I forget about it, or it doesn't actually come towards the podcast, or it doesn't actually come till the end of the podcast, or I think about it afterwards. But it's like I really like doing these kind of short videos, or those short form videos where I can just kind of quickly get like my quick little thoughts out. It's a minute video maybe, and then I just post it, and it's like, cool, all right, great. Where rather than what I was doing, I was just trying to clip farm more or less. Not like clip farm, honestly, but it's like I was like taking a video idea, and I was like, all right, cool, let me write that down, make a thumbnail, all right, boom, now let me talk about it. It wasn't really like anything that I had planned out. It was just kind of like, all right, let me figure out and see if God's going to give me anything to talk about this. Whereas this is like I was literally in the shower, and all of a sudden God just like speaks to me. He's like, yo, you need to talk about this right now, because this is something that was affecting you, and now you are walking free from it. And but yeah, I really just want to talk about this, or wanted to talk about that. But yeah, if you like this kind of video and prefer it more, I definitely want to keep doing these. If you like those short form videos, let me know. I'll keep doing those because they're just fun to do and they're pretty simple to make. But yeah, if you liked it, make sure to hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. But with all that said, Jesus loves you. Peace.